So today is the 3rd. And we're going to be multiplying complex numbers. So we talked about complex numbers yesterday, right? What's a complex number in your own words? What's a complex number? You could always look back a page and then just...
Number that consists of 2 real parts.
It has 2 parts. A real part and an imaginary part. What's the form that we write our complex numbers in? Okay, so A plus BI, your real plus your imaginary. The imaginary part goes at the end. So we need to talk about powers of I. Because as we multiply, like if you multiply x times x, you get what? X squared. So that's going to happen with I, but something fancy happens with these imaginary numbers. So I to the first power is just I. That should make sense, right? Because x to the first power is just x. Now here's the one piece you really need to remember. I squared, so when you get I squared, you are going to replace I squared with a -1. So I squared is really a -1. This you need to know. Okay, I squared gets replaced with -1. So as we multiply through, because remember, we only can have the form A plus BI. Do you see a I squared there? No, you won't have anything greater than I to the first power. Okay, this is the form we're looking at. So when we find an I squared, we're going to replace it with a -1. And we're just going to multiply. Okay, just like yesterday, it needs to be in this form. Sometimes you'll just distribute. Sometimes you'll use the box or the FOIL method. Okay, so let's just start simple. Let's do 2I times 3 minus 5I. Okay, we're going to work it out like we normally do. We're not going to replace anything yet. So if I were to multiply that, what would I do to multiply? Distribute, right? So you would distribute the 2I in. So 2I times 3, 6I. 2I times -5I, -10I squared, right? But we can't have an I squared. We have to replace that with what? -1. So I'm literally going to replace it with a -1. So I can simplify that. Well, what's -10 times -1? A +10. And I should put my real part first. And then I just write the 6I at the end. We're going to do quite a few of these. Okay, so we replaced I squared with -1 and you simplify. Make sure your real part comes first and then your imaginary part second. But all of your answers will look like this. If your answer doesn't have, I shouldn't say, I have to be careful when I say that, because you could have 0, right? We could have 0 plus 6I, but it should be a number and then your I term. Nothing squared, nothing cubed, nothing like that. Okay, so let's do another basic one. Let's do, let's do 6I times 6I plus 1. So again, it's the distributive property, right? So when I distribute, what do I get? 36I squared plus 6I. Everyone okay with that? Okay, but we can't have that form. We have to replace I squared with a negative 1. Okay, so if I replace it with a negative 1, 36 times negative 1 is negative 36. And then I have my 6i at the end. Am I in the right form? So I'm good. Do you need to see another basic one like that before we do a binomial times a binomial? Yeah, okay, some of you need it, so. How about, you try that one. So 2i times 3i plus 2. So what did you get when you distribute? 6i squared plus 4i. Then you replaced I squared, use a different color, with negative 1. So 6 times negative 1 gives me a negative 6 plus 4i should be your final answer. Yeah? Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to binomials. So I'm going to give you 7 plus 2i times 7 minus 2i. And we'll do this first one together. Okay, so you have the choice to box or FOIL, whatever you want to do. Most of us like box, so that's where I'm going to go. So I have 7 and 2i, and then I have 7 minus 2i. Okay, so let's multiply to get in. 7 times 7? 49. 7 times negative 2? Sorry, and then I forgot my I. So 7 times negative 2i is negative 14i. 7 times 2i is a positive 14i. And then 2i times negative 2i? Negative 4i squared. Everyone okay with that? Okay. Before I replace anything, let's combine like terms. So 49 doesn't combine with anything, right? So I'm just going to rewrite it. What about 14i and negative 14i? They cancel each other out. Everyone okay with that? And then this negative 4i squared doesn't combine with anything. But that does not look like the form that I need. Yes, ma'am?
Didn't you just do different squares for this one?
You could. But make sure you don't cancel the wrong things out. But you'll get this, yeah, because you do 7 times 7 is 49, and then 2i times 2i is negative 4i squared. Yep. Am I done, though? I need to replace I squared with negative 1. So I really have 49 plus 4, which is 53. And that's okay. You're allowed to just have a constant because your imaginary part is what? 0i. Okay, so that's allowed to happen. Now, some of you might replace the negative 1 up here and combine before you take it all out of the box. That's fine too. You do what works best for you. Okay? Why don't you try this one? 5 minus 6i times 4 minus 3i. Okay, so box or FOIL. Oh, you can't see that. Let me try again. There we go. So box or FOIL. Okay, so let's see. Again, box or FOIL. Box keeps you at least organized. So for those of you that struggled with that first multiplying test, this would be, I would recommend the box for you. So 5 minus 6i, and then 4 and a negative 3i. So when I multiply in, I get 20, negative 15i, negative 24i, and a positive 18i squared. Did you get that in your box? Okay. So you should have 20, negative 15, and negative 24 is a negative 39i. Plus my 18i squared. Everyone still okay with that? Okay. I'm going to replace I squared with negative 1. So that's really a negative 18. So what can I combine at this point? 20 and negative 18 is 2 minus 39i. Did we get that? Most of us did, hopefully. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll be done. And we're going to do this one together because I want to talk about the best strategy here. So I gave you 3 sets of parentheses. You have options on what you want to multiply first. So the negative 3i and the 6i? Okay, so negative 3i times 6i is negative 18i squared. I think we should fix that I squared before we do anything else. Right? So that really becomes a positive 18 times the 4 minus 3i. Now that's a little more manageable, right? So pick something to multiply, simplify it down, and then multiply again. In this case, I'm just going to distribute 18 times 4. Thank you. 18 times 3. 54. And then we don't have to do anything with I squared at the end because it's not there. Now, if we left negative 18i squared, what would have happened here? You would have had an I to the third. So you would have had to break it down multiple ways in order to get this. If you see an I squared, deal with it right away before you do any other multiplying. It will make your life a whole lot easier. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? Do you need to see anything else? No? Okay.